5, 4, you can say 3, 2, 1. Good morning. I invite you to rise in body and or spirit for our gathering hymn number 116. I'm on my way, 1, 2, 4, and 5. And 2 will be sibling. Good morning. Woo! Well, let's see if my computer can recognize me. I guess, there you go. We're always a little different every day. Good morning. I'm Reverend J. Wolin. I'm the settled minister here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Sarasota, and we are so welcome to have everybody here. I especially want to welcome our visitors here today, whether in person or online on YouTube. We invite all visitors. They can participate in any of the events at our church. If you want to find out more about our events, you can sign up. Either there's a little table right outside the sanctuary, or if you go online to our homepage, there is a place you can sign up there under visitors, and you will get our newsletter and can find out Zoom links to events that we have. And so we look forward to getting to know you as well. After service, there is coffee and conversation. And today, and maybe for the next few weeks, we're going to have something special. There's a blue table outside. Actually, it's, I don't know the color of the table. There's a blue tablecloth on the table. It is called, there's a sign there, Coffee and Conversation. So if you are a visitor or someone relatively new or even a member who doesn't have anyone to talk to, there is a table where they'll be with the members of the hospitality team, a way to get to know other people better, which is part of our goal here about building relationships with each other. We have a couple of announcements today. Next Saturday, June 17th, from 11 to 7 p.m., there is a Newtown Juneteenth celebration. Join the Newtown community for a free outdoor celebration and to commemorate the end of slavery in the United States. And it's a way to support local vendors and businesses as well. The West Coast Black Theater Troupe is proud to host its first ever Juneteenth Arts Festival on Sunday, June 18th from 1 to 9. I'm glad they timed it so it would not be in conflict with Sunday service. So anyway, and lastly, just a reminder, after service today, after you get a cup of coffee at 11:45, we will be having congregational conversation about the 8th principle. So we invite everyone and anyone to participate in that. And as well, there will be one at 2:30 online on Zoom. And so this will be about the eighth principle, which we will be voting on whether to accept or not in October of 2023. And so now we got that out of the way. It's my pleasure, she's been here before, to introduce Sanaya Carroll, who will be doing our opening song.
Happy Juneteenth, everybody. And it's a celebration, but really it's an acknowledgement of the work that's been done and the work that remains to be done. Because we're not there yet, right? All right. So there's a little bit of a bittersweet, but we're going to focus on the sweet. Hang on to the world as it spins around. Just don't let the spinning bring you down. Things are moving fast. Hold on tight and you will last. Keep your self-respect, your personal pride. Get yourself in gear. Never mind your pride. Brighter days will still be here. We're gonna get through our fears. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Keep on walking tall. Hold your head up high. Lay your dreams right up to the sky. Sing your greatest song. And you'll keep going on. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Yeah, 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 yeah. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. What I want to say is, oh, take it from me, someday we'll all be free. Oh, take it from me, someday we'll all be free.
Our opening reading is Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room? Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bound head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness. But still, like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise up from a past that's rooted in pain. I rise on the black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide, leaving behind the nights of terror and fear. I rise into a daybreak that's wonderfully clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. And now I invite Anna up to light the chalice. As we light the chalice, please join me now in affirming one of our principles, which is in your order of service and on the screen, hopefully behind me. There we go. As we light our this chalice, a symbol of Unitarian Universalism, we affirm our sixth principle, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you, Anna. And so today, actually, usually Catherine does a time for all ages, but she is on vacation today. So I get to share the story with you today. It's a story is Opal Lee, What It Means to Be Free. Words by Alice Faye Duncan and art by Katura A. Bobo. When Opal Lee was 12, angry neighbors burned down her family's Texas home because of the color of their skin. From that day forward, Opal decided to speak up for equality. Opal became a teacher, community leader, and civil rights activist, passing down the true stories that others had forgotten. She especially loved talking about her favorite holiday, Juneteenth. The celebration marks the day in 1865 when the last enslaved people in the United States, way down in Galveston, Texas, finally learned they were free. When Opal Lee was 89, she walked from her home in Fort Worth, Texas, to Washington, D.C. I'll bet you got a lot of steps in on that one, to call for Juneteenth to be named a national holiday. And this is part of her story. Happy Juneteenth Jamboree! Come and join the fun! Opal Lee waved to her great-grandson as he barreled across the park. He hurried past a leaping choir draped in purple robes. He danced a jig with cowboys playing fiddles, and they did not stop his flow. But he ran to his blooming tree where Opal Lee held court. Her braided hair was a silver crown. Her eyes were twinkling stars. Great-granddear, Buddy called. Tell us a Juneteenth story. Opal Lee raised her face to the sun as memories of yesteryear filled her vision. When she had been a Texas bud like the children at her feet. Granddaddy Zach told freedom stories on his wooden porch. As April Lee remembered his words, she lifted her hands and cheered. Juneteenth means freedom, and now it's story time. And the children listened intently as Opal Lee began. Once upon the blazing sun, black bodies were bought and sold like cattle. Black men plowed the field, but were not allowed to own the land. Black women cooked the food, but were not allowed to feast on the roast and the ribs from the master's table. Black children cleaned the one-room schoolhouse, but were not allowed to read or write. Earning and learning were against the law. American slavery dragged on like a plague until January 1st, 1863. That's when President Lincoln wielded courage and raised his feathered pen. He signed the Emancipation Proclamation with a mighty stroke. Glory! Freedom was dazzling news like a bright, starry night. However, Texas was big. I've heard that about Texas. And I've driven through it. It is a very big state. And it was big and many miles away from Mr. Lincoln. White masters defied his words, and black bodies remained in bondage. Freedom did not ring through Texas. It was toiling times in the lone state. For 2 years, 5 months, and 18 days, finally, joy jumped up and down on dancing feet in the Gulf town of Galveston, Texas, in June 19th, 1865, when Gordon Granger, with his Union Army troops, raised his booming voice and yelled, "The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free." People cheering, "Ah!" Singing filled the air. Happy tears rolled down like rain. Black families leapt through the cotton fields and played tambourines. Oh, I didn't even know that. Okay. It was a day of jubilee, perfect for Texas barbecue, watermelon, and sweet potato pie. Delicious delights that had been denied them during slavery. Opal Lee told the children, "Remember my words for safekeeping. Remember what I say. Juneteenth is bigger than Texas, singing or dancing bands. Juneteenth is freedom rising and freedom for everyone. Juneteenth is for you, and Juneteenth is for me." And now, I invite our children to head out to religious education as we hear once again from Sanaya Carroll.
You're broken down and tired from living life on this merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, and we're gonna walk it out and move mountains. We're gonna walk it out and move mountains. the day I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up as high as a wave. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. When silence isn't quiet and you feel like it's getting harder to breathe, and you can't find a fighter, but we're gonna bring the world to its feet, yes, and move mountains. We'll bring the world to its feet, and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. I'll rise up, in spite of the wave. I'll rise up, never mind the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. All we need, all we need, all we need is hope. And for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. Oh, and we will rise, we will rise, we will rise. Oh, 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 we will rise. And I'll rise up as bright as the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. We'll rise up, we'll rise like the day, we'll rise up, in spite of the ache, we'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, and you, and you, for you.
Centering in words are from Eleanor Wilner, those who came after. Those who come after will never say of us what wonderful myths they had. There will never rise, dripping from our midst, figures with wings open, dry in the sun, completed by being, more of us than ourselves. What we leave is all that can be dredged up from the wretched harbors, history debris. So in the end, it is not the beautiful figures draped in white silk togas of dreams, nor the muscular thoughts stalking the peaks in the golden proportions of Greece with lightning clenched in their fists, nor animal gods with eyes of hawks and the delicate fingers of girls. No, only what broke in our hands when our voyages ended in the slow grip of possession. As a continent's shore is slowly swallowed by the sea, making the infinite coastline the in and out of an edge endlessly nibbled and gnawed, that is the line we leave behind us, the posterity of loss. But when they say of us what we have done, perhaps they will speak kindly of those who near the end pried open the hand. Perhaps they will say there were those who took down the harps hung in the sorrowing trees, having lost the taste for conquest and revenge, and made a song that rose in the air as smoke rises. As we enter into a time of silence, let us contemplate what songs we are bringing into the creation of our universe. So when I was a child, our family would play a game whereby each of the children would have to go and learn something about a historical person who was born on the same birthday that we had. I just remember I was always disappointed by the lack of really famous or important people that were born on my birthday compared to my siblings, at least. So, yeah, sibling rivalry, even in the mundane. And although now, as a somewhat public figure, as a minister, I win hands down as who has the most hits on the first page of Google when you type in their name. Not that I do that too often when we're all together, but, you know, I do it. When I was a child, of course, it was pre-internet, and so I had to learn about history via the World Book Encyclopedia and the library, and people with the same birthday as me include a great actor, Paul Mooney, and a not-so-great actor, Scott Baio. In the music field, I did a little better. I had the same birthday as Joan Jett from Joan Jett and the Blackhawks. Anybody remember Joan Jett? Any Joan Jett fans here? Okay, some. For some who like other types of music, also the same birthday as the great Italian opera tenor Bocelli. So any fans of Bocelli out there? A few. All right. And although I am not sure of the accuracy of the internet, because I did check this before I came in today, the internet does claim I have the same birthday as Bilbo Baggins, at least in Shire reckoning. But in my quest, or maybe I should say my obsessive quest to one-up my older siblings, I had to get creative, and so I decided to search for famous events that were related to my birthday, and I hit gold. On September 22nd, 1862, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. It is a proclamation that stated that any slave in a state rebelling against the Union was free. Now, I know what you were thinking right now. If you were paying attention to the Time for All Ages, you're thinking, Jay, in the story it said it was January 1st, 1863. But it was actually issued September 22nd, my birthday, in that year, with the statement that if the rebels did not end their fighting and rejoin the Union, this would be enacted on January 1st. So, you know, so it goes to tell you where the priorities were, actually. I mean, they were threatening that just to keep the Union together. Now, there are some who call the Emancipation Proclamation the Second Declaration of Independence. Our Declaration of Independence states, and I quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness," end quote. And to be clear, the original United States Declaration excluded women and slaves, and we know our Constitution treated slaves as 3/5 property. Comedian Chris Rock caught some heat a number of years back when he tweeted on July 4th, "Happy White People's Independence Day. The slaves weren't free, but I'm sure they enjoyed fireworks," end quote. For many African Americans, an additional special Independence Day is often celebrated, independence from slavery. That day, as we heard, is June 19th, called Juneteenth, a combination of June and 19th. And on January 1st, 1980, in Texas, Juneteenth became the first state in Texas to officially celebrate Juneteenth as a state holiday. It's now an official state holiday in 27 states, not in Florida. But in 2021, Congress did pass, and President Biden signed into law a resolution establishing Juneteenth as a federal holiday. Now, Juneteenth, as you heard, was the day the Union soldiers landed in Galveston, Texas, with news that the war had ended and that the enslaved were now free. And this history shows us that words written on a piece of paper are meaningless unless they are communicated. Words on a piece of paper, even if they are communicated, just set out an intention. And that is important. But if the intention is not backed by right action, the words and intentions become meaningless. This is something we will be talking about today in our congregational conversation today. What will it mean to us? What actions should we take if we pass the eighth principle for this congregation? Right? It's not just words on a piece of paper. They are words to guide us in our actions. The Emancipation Proclamation stated within it, and I quote, "The executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons and will do no act or acts to repress such persons in any efforts they may make for their actual freedom," end quote. So what were these former slaves free to do? For a short time after the Civil War, the federal government, along with the military, actually did enforce some laws and to protect African Americans in the South. African Americans acquired a modicum of power, actually, in certain parts of the South just after the Civil War ended. But soon after that, due to compromises, money interests, and ingrained culture of entitlement, the military was removed, and this led to the disempowerment of African Americans through direct violence, the Ku Klux Klan, hangings, lynchings, segregation, and Jim Crow laws that led to a reign of terror against African Americans in the South. Many former slaves migrated north, where they were confronted with both job and housing discrimination. Many former slaves had been separated from their families during slavery, so they had less of a support structure as well to help them. There was an article in Atlantic magazine entitled "The Case for Reparations," which speaks specifically about the abuses that the African American community were confronted with in Chicago, with redlining, preventing them from obtaining home loans. They were forced to borrow at usurious rates from less than scrupulous lenders. And even in the bank scandal of 2008, it has come out over time that banks were specifically targeting African American churches to sell subprime loans to their members with high fees and terms that they knew were going to force foreclosure in the future. We know BIPOC individuals, there are statistics about this, are targeted by police for search and arrest in far greater proportion than white people. So what does it mean to be free if barrier after barrier is put in front of you? What does it mean to be free if you are denied opportunities? What does it mean to be free if you do not have nourishment for your body and soul to thrive? Although we may have personal freedoms, each of our choices have consequences. Now, freedom is an important value in this country and in our religion. But too often the question is, what do we have freedom to do instead of who has the freedom to do what? We come together as a society, as a congregation, as a religion, and we decide what boundaries are acceptable. And we usually start with do no harm. But that is not enough, for there is unfinished work. Abraham Lincoln, in his Gettysburg Address at the site of one of the deadliest battles in the Civil War, said, and I quote, "It is for us, the living, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought died for," end quote. Past and present racial and economic inequality is still causing harm. We may be free to ignore the challenges in our midst. We may. In fact, we may be culturally adapted to ignore challenges. Psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky found that, and I quote, people want to avoid feeling regret, and that they are more likely to feel a regret about a bad outcome resulting from a decision they made compared to a bad outcome that came from inaction, end quote. Meaning, accepting the status quo means a potential for fewer regrets. But our religion asks more of us than that. It asks us to risk regret, to risk making mistakes. Unitarian Universalism asks us, as the principle we stated earlier this morning, to work for liberty and justice for all, for all. And even so, even within action, we cannot escape the consequences of our inactions. If we have to wall ourselves off, I had this conversation with somebody on Twitter. I don't know why I get into these Twitter discussions sometimes with people, but if we have to wall ourselves off from the troubles of our community and of the world, are we truly free? Right? When we're the ones putting up the wall, right, we are the ones who are in prison. And whether that is literally or metaphorically, when we put up a wall, we imprison ourselves and our feelings and our emotions and our bodies. In our principle, it states peace, liberty, and justice is for the world community. And therefore, to follow our principle, it has to be more than just about us. It has to be for everyone. As the UUA president, Susan Frederick Gray, recently wrote, and I quote, "May we always enlarge the circle of our concern to create inclusive communities of resilience and wholeness, of resistance and courage. May we live the bold, brave, loving theology that lives at the heart of this tradition," end quote. And so I ask you to help all people who are oppressed, to help them enlarge their freedoms, right? I also ask you to help this church in our expansive vision as we work to build the beloved community. And one way is to help us enlarge our collections through our offering today. And so I ask you to free your wallets of some money and to be as generous as you can be. For those online or here on your cell phone, there's a link in the YouTube channel in order if you want to give online. Let this sacred time begin. The next reading is from Nelson Mandela from his book, Long Walk to Freedom. I have walked that long road to freedom. I have tried not to falter. I have made missteps along the way. But I have discovered that the secret that after climbing a great hill, one only finds that there are many more hills to climb. I've taken a moment here to rest, to steal a view of the glorious vista that surrounds me, to look back on the distance that I have come. But I can rest only for a moment. For with freedom comes responsibilities, and I dare not linger, for my long walk is not yet ended. And one more time, we have Sanaya Carroll.
Before I start, I just want to say one quick thing, because you know me, Jay. Nina Simone was once asked, what is freedom? And her reply was that freedom is no fear. No fear. No fear to love. No fear to look somebody in the eye, no matter where they come from, how much they have or don't. No fear. I was born by the river in a little tent, and just like the river, I've been wandering ever since. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know change gonna come. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long, long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Well, I might run for office, set up my canteen quarters downtown. But somebody there's gonna keep telling me not to hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change is gonna come. Then I go to my brother, and I say, brother, won't you help me, please? But he winds up one way or another, knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, well, there've been times I thought that I wouldn't last too long, but now I know I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. A change gonna come. Oh, change change gonna come. Would you just sing with me? Because this is what we got to make happen, right? 2, 3. Change gonna come. What we're gonna make happen today. Come on, let me hear it. Change gonna come. Oh, whoa, whoa. Change gonna come. We can do it, right? It's gonna take some work. It's gonna take some determination. It's quiet. You gotta keep going. One last time. Change gonna come. Change gonna come.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. So unlike the Declaration of Independence, claim of the pursuit of happiness, 19th century Unitarian transcendentalist minister Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the purpose of life is not to be happy, it is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference, that you have lived and lived well, end quote. So the questions we have to ask ourselves is not, what are we going to write, what are we going to say in polite company, but what are we going to do? What can we do to right the wrongs of the past in our country? What type of healing and reconciliation can we put forward to bind up the wounds? I tell you, this is just as true for us as individuals, as a congregation, as a religion, as it is for entire society in the world. What wounds do we have that we ignore, that we let fester, that make us lash out when something triggers us? We need to deal directly with the problem or it will eat us alive, just as the consequences of slavery and racial discrimination continue to eat our country alive. There is a path to reconciliation. It's not always clear, and it is hard, and it takes humility and courage. The path includes direct encounter, or as Brian Stevenson would say, proximity. Not one filled with judgment and defensiveness, but filled rather with openness to hearing and sharing, filled with empathy and listening, which will hopefully one day lead to trust and the developing of deeper relationships. When we are in pain, when we experience loss and suffering, it's hard to see something from another's perspective. And although we hope to find a mutual solution, it's not always about finding a solution, but rather about building relationships. Right? Creating deep relationships requires us to make a commitment to this work, right? Forming deep relationships allows us to live out our deepest values towards building the beloved community. A community that includes everyone working together to bring home the exile, to find the lost, to feed the hungry, to house the homeless, to heal old wounds. Sounds like a lot of work. But as a Unitarian minister, Edward Everett Hale said, I am only one, but I am still one. I cannot do everything, but I can still do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do, end quote. So let us work together to do what we can do, and in so doing, encourage others as well. In our lives, in our religion, and in the larger world, we often don't like to talk about things that make us uncomfortable. Race and racial inequality is just one of those things. It's a big one, right? But we will never find wholeness if we do not do the work, both internal and external work. The internal work to understand ourselves and what drives us to act the way we do, or maybe what drives us to why we ignore the things that we do. And the external work to bring justice and healing to a fractured world, as our principles and history call us to do. Transcendentalist Walt Whitman, in his poem Song to Myself, wrote, and I have adapted to be gender neutral, "I know that the hand of God is the promise of my own, and that all people ever born are also my siblings. And the foundation of the creation is love," end quote. And that is what our religion calls us to do, to love. Now, I'm not here today to share the merits of reparations, although I think there are many and it is necessary. I do not know the specific answer as to how reparations would be implemented. I just know that our siblings are in pain, and they have been in pain for a long time. None of us are free until all of us are free. All of us coming together can help to heal the fractures in our world with love. May it be so. I invite you to rise in body and or spirit for our closing hymn, number 153, "Oh, I Woke Up This Morning." Thank you for singing along. Our closing word is entitled Risks by Janet Rand, slightly adapted. Risks must be taken because the greatest risk in life is to risk nothing. The person who risks nothing, does nothing, has nothing, is nothing, becomes nothing. They may avoid suffering and sorrow, but they simply cannot learn, feel, change, grow, or love. Attached to their certitude, they are limited. They have forfeited their freedom. Only the person who risks is truly free. Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. The words are up on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you all for your presence here today. And don't forget, we'll be having congregational conversations in about 15 minutes. Thank you for being here.